So apparently Canada has a friend in America. All this time we thought that, America and Canada was at the verge of like a civil war when it comes to this on and off again tariffs, on and off again trade war. Doug Ford, putting out that ad. Mark Carney going down to Washington, pretending to be a fighter, not really coming out with anything. Trump responding, putting more tariffs on, elbows up, all the psyop measurement that came out of it. We thought it was never going to end. We thought that, this is the point where they're trying to further divide us, that they're trying purposely to separate Canada from America, get Americans to hate on Canada, and vice versa. This is all part of it. It was all part of the psyop. But there is some saving grace, though. According to CP24, the U.S. Senate votes 50-46 to nullify Trump's tariffs on Canada, with 4 Republicans crossing the aisle. That's interesting. I didn't think that was even happening because with the government shutdown. How is the U.S. Senate voting on tariffs on Canada if the government's still shut down? Unless it's reopened by the time you're watching this. I'm not totally sure. But my understanding was it was still shut down. That they still haven't came to agreement on their issues. But that's pretty interesting. So CP24 says the U.S. Senate passed legislation Wednesday that can nullify U.S. tariffs on Canada, just as U.S. President Donald Trump is engaged with trade talks in Asia, as well as an increasing bitter trade spat with the U.S.'s northern neighbor that is one of the largest economic partners. The 50-46 tally was the latest in a series of votes this week to terminate the national emergencies that Trump has used to impose tariffs. While the resolutions won't ultimately take effect, they have proven to be an effective way for Democrats to expose cracks between the president's trade policy and Republican senators who have traditionally supported free trade arguments. Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, remember that guy? That was Hillary Clinton's VP pick. Remember that guy? Mr. Not exactly free choice. Not exactly for bodily autonomy. Not exactly Mr. Perfect Wonderful for so-called Hillary Clinton. But anyway, the Democrats pushing the resolution said the higher prices caused by tariffs would force Republicans to break with Trump. It became untenable for them to just close their eyes and say, I'm signing up for whatever the president wants to do, Kaine told reporters. The Senate passed a similar resolution applying to Brazilian tariffs on Tuesday and has already passed a resolution on Canadian imports in April. The same 4 Republicans, Senators Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins of Maine, and Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, and Rand Paul of Kentucky, voted again with all Democrats to approve the resolution applying to Canada. Wonder where Doug Ford sits on that, because Doug Ford went after Kentucky and bourbon. Remember that? He went after the bourbon industry. He went after the California wine industry. He went after Florida. They went after everybody because they want to manufacture the narrative that America's evil, that anyone that associates with Trump is considered evil, just like how they want to manufacture consent that anyone that associates with Mark Carney is evil. But the truth of the matter is, not a lot of people voted for these tariffs, and not a lot of people voted for Mark Carney here in Canada. And not a lot of people voted for Trump to get these tariffs. So we're both being screwed. We're both being played apart. And that's what's uniting people. That's what's uniting Canadians and Americans alike on this issue, because they realize that these tariffs are affecting everybody. And this false claim that, it's going to help people, it's going to, bring back jobs. Well, we've already shown that Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent, Trump's secretaries in commerce, already admitted on camera that even if the jobs do come back to America and, factories start rebuilding, they're going to automate them. They're going to automate them because they don't give a damn about you. They never gave a damn about you. This has been in the works for the last few decades to completely destroy and deprive the middle class earners away and put them in misery for the billionaires to explode, for the billionaires to climb up. That's what they're doing here. These tariffs are not going to result to anything helpful for the middle class, whether it be in Canada or the United States, but it's going to benefit them to say that, oh, well, we're helping you. We're fighting. We're fighting for these jobs. We're fighting for all the factories that we told to outsource their manufacturing elsewhere. We told these companies to go elsewhere for their manufacturing to get jobs from other poor countries. And now we're claiming that we're going to fight those companies to bring the jobs back here. By the way, we're also going to automate them, so not really a point. Kane, joined by other Democrats, and Paul was forced the votes under a decades-old law that allows Congress to block a president's emergency powers. However, House Republicans have passed new rules that allow leaders to prevent such resolutions from getting a vote in that chamber, and Trump could veto the legislation even if it cleared Congress. Wednesday's vote happened as Trump was in Asia to advance trade talks with partners there. The president has also been jousting with Canadian officials amid a delicate negotiation to reduce tariffs between the two countries. Senator Mike Crapo, that's his name, Crapo, okay, the Republican chair of the Senate Committee on Finance, acknowledged in a floor speech that many may be nervous about what happens next as Trump remakes global trade, but he urges Congress to stay out of the way. Let's truly get a balanced, fair playing field in trade, Crapo added. Yet there is increasing tensions between GOP senators and the president over how soybean farmers have been suffered from the trade war with China, as well as the administration's plans to allow the purchase of more beef from Argentina. So this is what's affecting people, and this is what's waking up a lot of people. At first, they were cheering on the tariffs to say, yeah, we're jabbing at China. We're taking a jab at the UK. We're no longer getting abused by Canada. Yeah. You saw all the Chud accounts that were cheering on for this, but now they're realizing that, wait a second, you're actually affecting farmers. The agriculture industry is getting destroyed. And it's not because of China. China's not storming the beaches of Omaha, Nebraska and taking over farms. It's because the billionaires are purposely going after and demonizing the farmers with these trade deals, with these horrific backdoor deals with other countries to exploit the American agricultural sector. So now they're trying to get more beef from Argentina because Argentina is bankrupt. Argentina is falling flat in their face, and they're trying to bail them out. And by bail them out, that means taking taxpayer dollars from America and sending it to a billionaire in Argentina. Sending it to investment funds in Argentina. It's not going to Argentinians. Just let you know. That money's not going to Argentinians. They're not bailing out the people. They barely bail out Americans. Why would they bail out Argentinians? That's because they're not doing it. They are, however, bailing out people like George Soros in the process. So, congratulations. Trump, who you thought was going to go after the deep state, is actually part of the deep state because he's bailing out people like George Soros, and he handpicked people who used to work for George Soros. Scott Bassett used to work for George Soros. So, it goes to show you the catastrophic damages this is happening on both countries respectively. So, here's Kirk Limbaugh, who says the U.S. Senate vote in favor of terminating Donald Trump's tariffs on Canada. 50 yeas, 45 nays. Republicans that joined the vote: Mitch McConnell, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and Rand Paul. The House will still need to pass, which won't happen. So they voted on this, but because the government shut down and because they worried that Trump's going to veto it, being the president, they're wondering if this is going to pass. They're wondering if this is going to pass. But that goes to show you that Americans aren't angry at Canadians, just like Canadians should not be angry at Americans. I know there's a lot of people out there that that see that. They see with the elbows up movement, they see, you know, Americans bashing Canadians of being how stupid, how idiotic, how maniacal they are with the tariffs. That is all manufactured. That is all a psyop. That is all purposely done, again, to sow division, to manufacture consent, so that we get angry at each other and not angry at our leaders for causing this dilemma, for causing this circus. And as I stated numerous times before, the best way we can do to resolve this is demand our politicians in our respective countries to get together, hammer out a deal, and do not let them leave the office. I don't care what it takes. If they have to lock the door and shove Mark Carney into the Oval Office with Trump, and it has to be an overall weekend of hammering out a deal, I don't care what it takes. Do something. Because what we're dealing with now is just awful. What we're dealing with now is devastating. And they're doing this intentionally. But luckily, some senators are clear-minded when it comes to this. Here's Bruce McGonagall, who found this. So this is back in September. It says, breaking, Mark Carney admits 85% of Canadian goods don't even pay a U.S. tariff, proving that elbows up was always a pre-scripted election ploy. It explains why the House of Commons has only sat 4 weeks out of the first 8.5 months of 2025. Remember that? Remember that? The whole elbows up, the whole we got to get Mark Carney because he's going to fight Trump. And then the House of Commons didn't do anything about it. Mark Carney's refusing to budge. Mark Carney's refusing to actually come out with a deal or actually have an argument to defend Canada. It's almost like a sideshow. It was almost like a circus. Well, this could be part of it. This could be part of it because he knows that a lot of our industries are not part of the U.S. tariffs. We know that steel and aluminum are. We know that lumber is. But 85% of goods don't have a U.S. tariff on them. Interesting. Interesting. So if that's the case, all these industries that are closing down, all the trouble that's happening within Canada is not the fault of the United States then. It's not the fault of Trump and his tariffs. It's the fault of this guy. That just literally proves that Mark Carney is to blame for the destruction of Canada. Not Trump, not the Republicans, not Elon Musk, not Americans, but Mark Carney, the Liberal Party, the Parliament building, all the people that applied to Nazi twice. They're at the fault for destroying and disrupting Canada. And they're doing this intentionally. Here's Mark Carney explaining this to the press here. Watch this.
But that future, that economic future for our country is caught up in a storm. Caught up in a storm as the United States fundamentally reshapes all of its trading relationships. And to be clear, Canada currently has the best deal of any of the United States trading partners in the world. 85% of our trade with the United States has no tariffs. It's tariff-free. And we have the lowest average tariff rate of any country. But we've learned a lesson over the course of the last several months, is that our relationship with the U.S. is changing. And we can't rely on our most important trading relationship as we once did. You know.
So, let me understand this. If he's saying that 85% of our goods don't have a U.S. tariffs on it, but yet he's saying that we got to change the relationship, why then do we put counter tariffs on America if he's admitting that 85% of it don't have a tariff from the United States? Why did we put retaliatory tariffs on American goods? Why did we get Doug Ford to do press conferences where he's dumping out a bottle of Crown Royal, which is Canadian, by the way? I want to make that clear as day, that Crown Royal is produced in Canada, and he's making it sound like it's an American product and we got to steal it from the shelves of the LCBO. It's absolutely embarrassing what's happening here. It's an absolute circus. It's an absolute performance. This is all theatrics. Because Mark Carney just admitted there that this isn't about the tariffs. This isn't about the tariffs. This is about the restructuring of our partnerships, restructuring our relationships, getting us to go after each other, getting us to demonize each other, for Canadians to go after Americans, for Americans to go after Canadians, to cause that disruption, cause that feud. Well, Mark Carney and Donald Trump and the people perpetrating this trade war continue to exploit people. That's what this is. That's what this is. The disruption between Canada and America has nothing to do with the tariffs. This is all manufactured. This is all part of the scheme. In part with this. Here's Mark Nixon to point this out. So when Trump was mentioning about the 51st state, there's always that one person that keeps bringing that up. Oh, what about, 51st state? He's trying to do economic force to take over Canada and, take over the country. As I stated, the country's already been taken over way before Trump. That's because of Klaus Schwab when he penetrated Trudeau's cabinet. Thank you very much. So Canada's already been taken over, but no one wants to acknowledge that. But here's the other interesting part, is that the 51st state idea wasn't even Trump's. It was actually Justin Trudeau that mentioned about it. So here, it says Justin Trudeau that suggests the idea for Canada to become the 51st state. So not Donald Trump, but it was actually Justin Trudeau in a meeting with American ambassadors, with Donald Trump, that suggested Canada would be a 51st state idea. And here is the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, admitting this on national television, that he heard this from Justin Trudeau, not Donald Trump, but from the former Prime Minister. Take a listen.
Boom. Guess what? It was Justin Trudeau that suggested that Canada become the 51st state. So for all the liberals that are booing the American national anthem at the sporting events, you're booing the wrong person. You should boo Justin Trudeau for suggesting that Canada become the 51st state. You're going to have to listen to this.
Trump has talked about expanding the U.S. footprint. In a hot mic moment, Canada's Prime Minister said that absorbing Canada is a real thing. Is it a real thing?
Look, you know how that came about. President's meeting with Trudeau, and Trudeau says, well, if you even out our trade relationship, then we will cease to exist as a country. At which point the president responded very logically, and that is, well, if you can't exist without cheating in trade, then you should become a state. That was his observation.
That's how it started.
It is how it started. And I think he's told the story publicly. And that's how all this began. Look, Canada's our friend. Canada's our neighbor. Canada's our partner. But it goes back to the point I made. For decades, the United States allowed uneven trade imbalances to develop. During the Cold War, you know why we did it? We did it because we felt like we want countries to be strong economically, even if it means they're cheating, because we don't want them to fall victim to some internal Marxist coup that overturns their government or what have you. Those days are gone.
Unless it's Venezuela, Cuba, Latin America, unless it's countries we actually want to overthrow, destroy their economy, destroy its people so we can extract their resources, right? Like, again, I'm not trying to put any credit on someone like Marco Rubio, who's had a long-standing history of narcotics dealing. You can go look that for yourself. But that's stunning. That's fascinating. That it was actually Justin Trudeau that came up with the idea, the philosophy behind the 51st state. So, as Mark Nixon pointed out, all the times that the liberals, all the times that people, the elbows up crowd, were booing the American national anthem, telling you to buy Canadian, that you got to completely disavow America. I had a conversation with someone like that during Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, my golden rule is I don't talk about politics in, family and friends setting unless someone actually engages me first on the subject matter. I don't preach out to people. I don't exhort to bring that conversation, but someone brought it up and I said, isn't it kind of interesting that Canadian companies aren't even hiring Canadians? So how are we really supporting Canadians in that factor? And the second part I noted that, okay, if you are an individual that is, staunchly against America, that you want to go fully 100%, 110% support of Canadian goods and products, which, I'm not disagreeing with that. I support, people buying locally and buying and helping your community. I get that. I support that. But if you're going completely staunch earth against America, then I don't want to see anyone on social media. I don't want to see anyone watching television shows. I don't want to see anyone engaging with American products. I don't want to see, those kind of people drink Coca-Cola. Because even if they made the argument that, well, there's Coca-Cola plants in Canada, it's still an American product. It's still an American product. It was founded in Georgia. I don't want to see you with that product. If you're 100% against America, if you're so deeply, putting America in a villainized state because of what Trump and Carney are doing to us, then you got to go full disattachment to anything remotely American. That means television shows, that means social media, all that stuff. I didn't actually say that to that person, but that's what I was thinking. That was just kind of crazy to have that mindset. Like, again, I don't want to go down that hole because, let's just say there's a lot of relationships that have been scorned, have been cut off because of all the years of me pointing out a lot of flaws in politics. And when it came to COVID, when it came to January 6th, which has nothing to do with Canada, but apparently me stating something about it is so awful. But look at this. Natty Cat Algo. I don't know who this is, but she pointed this out. And it says, meanwhile, each Canadian pays $2,000 to $3,500 directly to service existing debt. That is a lot of food for kids wasted. Carney wants to add more to the debt. Bottomless pit. Bottom tier is liberal procurement. By the way, Biden hiked tariffs on Canada. Trump lowered them to 5.6%. And you can actually see it here. Let's bring up the articles. So, federal ombudsman found liberals' corrupt contracting indicates broken system. That's from the CBC. And here's AI, the AI overview, saying Canadians are paying between $1,900 and $3,400 per person in 2024-25 for federal and provincial government debt increase. Depending on their provinces. The total cost for all Canadians is estimated $92.5 billion for this period. And Mark Carney's adding more to the debt, which is causing more devastation, which is affecting us. So this is not, again, this is not Trump that's causing this horrific destruction of Canada. It's Mark Carney. It's the Parliament. It's the people that's supposed to represent us, that are supposed to make Canada great again, and it's just gone absolutely off a cliff. And here's, they asked AI, did Joe Biden put tariffs on Canadian lumber? It says, during the first Trump administration, tariffs were imposed on Canadian softwood lumber. The Biden administration maintained tariffs and increased them from 8% to 14.5%. I bet a lot of people didn't know that. So Trump put tariffs on lumber in his first administration, but Biden kept rising them. Biden kept increasing it. No one's upset about Joe Biden. No one's upset that the Democrats are putting tariffs on lumber that's affecting the lumber industry in Canada. But as soon as Trump put tariffs after making an ultimatum with Justin Trudeau, and Justin Trudeau completely sidelined the ultimatum and completely betrayed every one of us. They're not angry at Trudeau. They're not angry at Biden. They're not angry at the Democrats. They're not angry at the false manufacturing of this, but they want you to direct your anger, all of it at Trump. All of it at Trump. Because it was the ultimate psyop to get someone like Mark Carney, to get a central banker who almost bankrupted England, to become our prime minister. This was the ultimate deception, and it's still happening, folks. It's still happening, folks. They still want you to believe that, all the losses of jobs that are happening across the country, that all the industries that are falling short. Oh, it's all because of Trump. It's all because of the tariffs. It's all because of the fact that Trump is a meanie bobini and we can't deal with him. But they don't mention about anything about this. They don't mention that the Biden administration increased tariffs on lumber beforehand. They don't mention that 85% of goods manufactured in Canada don't have U.S. tariffs. They don't mention that Mark Carney deliberately is doing this. They don't want to put blame on Canadian politicians, even though they are rightfully in place of putting the blame on. Because this destruction has been going on way before Trump, way before. And this is decades in the making. And now you have a central banker that his sole purpose of leading Canada is to transform it and destroy the very essence of what made Canada such a great country and vastly change it into a technocratic, aristocratic, dystopian nightmare. That's where digital IDs are going to come in. That's where mass surveillance is going to increase. That's where censorship is going to happen. That's where social credit scores are going to happen. You look at China and you think how awful that is. The difference between what's happening in Canada, what's happening in China, is China's at least, their economy is accelerating. At least when they take advantage of their citizens, they have nice homes. Their countries look beautiful. Have you seen a Chinese city? It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's well built up. You look at a Canadian city and it's falling apart. That's the big difference. China's at least increasing the investment back into their country, whereas Canada's doing the exact opposite. They want to throw away money to other countries, to other initiatives outside of Canada that do nothing but just catastrophic damages. And no one wants to put a blame on them, but they want to put blame on Trump. Everything has to be Trump, according to their little PSYOP plan. But that just goes to show you how manufactured, how much of a PSYOP this is, how just bullshit this is. And I've said, this trade war is just a joke. It is just buffoonery. It's just a circus. And if we actually had responsible leaders, like I said, you lock them in the room, you throw away the key, you make sure that they're all together, and you hammer out a deal, and you come out with something. Because all this time, all this back and forth, Mark Carney going down to Washington and gingling up with Trump is not working. And Canadians and Americans are definitely pissed off together. And that's why the Senate decided to take action. So good on them. Good on them.